What's going on, everybody? My name is Leo, and in this video here, we're not doing a stock evaluation today, folks, if that's what you were expecting, but we're doing something completely different because the app is actually under maintenance. So until that gets resolved, you're going to see a lot more of my face and not so much of the spreadsheet. I know, it's horrific, but it is what it is. And it couldn't have happened at like the worst time too, because I reached out to the Reddit community of the value investing terminal and asked them for a bunch of stocks that they want to see evaluated, and sure enough, that's when everything kind of just fell apart. Either way, in this video here, we're going to be taking a look at what you can do to becoming a better investor. So without further ado, let's roll the intro and jump right into it. So if there's one thing that Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, Seth Klarman, Bill Ackman, and Peter Lynch all have in common, it's emotional control. In this video here, I'm going to show you 3 important tips that you can utilize to help better yourself and your financial and investing journey. Because here's the cold hard truth, folks. If you can't handle yourself, then you can't handle your finances. So without further ado, let's jump into tip number 1. And that is to read more. Specifically, I would say psychology books. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Warren Buffett reads around 600 pages a day. Now, you don't have to go to that extent, but I do believe in the next 2 books I'm going to recommend. Those 2 books are The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene and The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene is a phenomenal book because it touches upon, well, just different psychological aspects of human beings. For me, I believe it helped because, while the first chapter is a lot about rational thinking, but the chapters that followed really helped me identify different weak spots in my thinking. When I started off with investing, I made a lot of stupid mistakes. That book pretty much blatantly pointed them out as, here's why you did these mistakes. Now, with Psychology of Money, I believe it complements that book a lot because it takes a lot of the fundamental principles that Laws of Human Nature introduces on the human psyche and applies that to a financial base. Those 2 books I would thoroughly recommend. I'm going to put a link to them in the description, but they're both a phenomenal read. Laws of Human Nature is a little bit more lengthy. Psychology of Money is definitely guided towards emotional aspect in the finance world, but both of those 2 books really complement each other. Tip number 2, don't fall into FOMO. The fear of missing out is a terrible feeling to have. It's that anxiety that you should be doing something when your neighbor, your best friend is making crazy amounts of money on NFTs and other investment vehicles that it just doesn't make any sense, and there's this feeling inside of you that you have to jump in and do something because other people are making money and they're just like you, right? No, you really don't. You don't have to do that. When it comes to FOMO, the rate of when things actually play out in your favor is very unreliable, and it's something that has to be worked on because the more you feed into it, the worse it becomes, and it's almost like this crack addiction. I gotta get in on this hot stock or cryptocurrency that's blowing up and all my friends are jumping in on it. No, you don't have to jump in on. Open your horizon up, make it wider. Don't put the blinders on and see for the short term. They're looking at it like this. Meanwhile, there's gold right in front of you, but on the sides that you can't really see, there's spikes and daggers. So take a step back, understand everything that's going around you. Now this is going to kind of tie into the last tip, and that is to have a process. Your process is going to dictate how well you do, and sticking to your process is the most important thing. And how do you stick to that? It's knowing what your circle of competence is. It's fine not to know certain things. It's fine not to know about the next hot currency that's coming out or the stock that's people are raving about. What's not fine is jumping in on something and investing into something that you have no idea what it's about. You have no understanding. You have to understand something before you invest into it. That emotional aspect of you trying to justify, oh, I should definitely get into this because, oh, I believe it's a good investment because of some arbitrary reason. You're just preaching to your own illogical choir. What you should do is develop a process. My process is, if you watch any of my other previous videos, is I have my app. My app is essentially a checklist of things that I like to see in a company. And if the company doesn't hit things that I like or need to see that business do, I don't give it another shot until it hits those certain things. And if you watch my videos, a lot of the companies that I look at, they might be decent companies, but the price might be wrong, or the price might be right, but the fundamentals are garbage. You have to have a process, and you definitely have to stick with it. As soon as you deviate outside of your process, that's where things kind of get shaky. And what all these great investors have is that they have a process, they don't have a fear of missing out, and they're not afraid to stray from the herd. And I have no problem being wrong in the short term in order to be extremely right in the long term. And that's the mindset that you have to have going forward. Don't take it from me. Look at these phenomenal investors and emulate what they're doing. One key thing that they looked at is, does this make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, why get involved? So folks, just to recap, check out those two books I mentioned earlier, The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene and Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. 2, Don't Fall into FOMO. Those books will help you gain a little bit more confidence and more of a grounded approach. And 3, stick to a process. The process is everything, and it'll help you separate yourself from being a mediocre investor to a great investor. I can just take it from me, but if you don't want to take it from me, look at these phenomenal investors and see how well they've performed over their careers. But I can tell you from first-hand experience, as soon as I started developing a process, night and day. Literally night and day. But it does take a lot of training to try to get yourself into that mode of thinking and accepting that, hey, I might be wrong in the short term, but in the long term, I could be very, very, very right. And it's just weathering the storm. So with that, folks, if you haven't done so already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. You know what makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Best of luck to you. Let me know if you read those books or if you have read them. And I'll see you in the comments. Take it easy.